This is the Army's cutting-edge joint-like tactical vehicle, but we are not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about this, the high-mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicle known to the rest of the world as the Humvee. This bad boy can fit so many depressed grunts in it. The Humvee has been the quintessential military vehicle since it hit the line in 1983. In modern culture, there is no more iconic vehicle than this. From video games to movies to the Terminator, it's hard to find someone who has never laid eyes on this classic military design. How did it get this popular though? How did it come to fruition? And what is it that everyone who owns a Hummer is compensating for? We're here to find the answers to these and more questions in this video. The origins of the Humvee start all the way back in World War II with the Willis MB reconnaissance truck, also known as the Jeep. The Jeep served as the main military utility vehicle for over 20 years. During its lifetime, it went through several modifications and modernizations, but by the time the 1960s rolled around, the platform itself was just too old, and naturally, it needed a replacement. A series of stopgap solutions were used, such as the M37 and the M715, but all of these ultimately fell short for the requirements of the U.S. military. The Army started its High Mobility Combat Vehicle, or HMCV program, as an effort to find the true successor to the tried and true Jeep of years past. This program sought out to find what the exact specifications of the final product would need to be. In 1979, the specifications were set. It needed to be the jack of all trades, able to replace all current tactical vehicles in the 1/4 to 1 1/4 ton range. It called for excellent on and off-road performance, a large carrying capacity while being able to provide protection against indirect fire. It also needed to be able to climb a 60% incline and move at a 40% slope, while also being able to move through 2.5 feet of water. The final result of this program was the AM General M998 in 1983. The Humvee first saw action in the U.S. invasion of Panama during Operation Just Cause. During the short conflict in 1989, the Humvee proved to be the most agile and reliable way of getting around the battlefield. The Humvee's big break, however, came during the first Gulf War. It was the Humvee's first large-scale deployment. Couple that with the 24-hour news media coverage of the conflict, and every single TV screen in America was plastered with images of the iconic Humvee. While the American people were watching the Humvee, the troops in theater were relying on them. Like in Panama, the Humvee cemented its role as the utility, do-everything vehicle and dominated the desert terrain that all the troops found themselves in. Not only was the Humvee a tool for service members, there are countless pictures capturing its countless unofficial roles soldiers would give them. From beds to dinner tables, troops will always gravitate towards the trucks as a hangout spot, usually because it's the only place to sit down for miles. The conversations that troops have in the back of a Humvee are both the most intellectually stimulating and simultaneously vulgar things the English language has ever seen. Their image was so ingrained in American culture that soon normal people wanted to start buying their own Humvees, and GM eventually started selling the Hummer, which, unlike the monstrosities that followed it, was exactly the same vehicle as the troops were driving around, minus a few interior touches, of course. The Humvee saw its next big break during the invasion of Afghanistan in 2002. During the initial deployments, the Humvee worked perfectly. Due to Afghanistan's lack of roads and harsh terrain, the Humvee was able to conquer terrain like nothing else could at the time. Troops praised it as a rugged off-road vehicle with a wide wheelbase, so it was very hard to flip. The troops would also make the vehicles as light as possible, removing any unnecessary equipment, armor, even the doors, in order to be as light as possible and to have as much visibility on the highly vertical terrain of Afghanistan. The praise and love of the vehicle, however, came to a screeching halt due to the increased effectiveness of improvised explosive devices, also known as IEDs. During what was deemed the post-IED era, American vehicles were being taken out left and right, both in Afghanistan and Iraq, due to a myriad of roadside bombs. The Humvee was originally designed to be away from the front lines in a support role, but these new wars were blurring the line between what was a safe area and what wasn't, and changes had to be made. A famous exchange happened between the then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld and probably one of the ballsiest, saltiest specialists ever, Specialist Thomas Wilson, who was a scout with the Tennessee National Guard. In a town hall meeting, Specialist Wilson questioned Rumsfeld why they were rolling into Iraq with unarmored vehicles, which they had been attempting to augment with scrap metal and broken ballistic glass from landfills. Rumsfeld, when answering a similar question from a different soldier, famously said,
"You go to war with the army you have, and not the army you might want or wish to have at a later time.
This moment perfectly captured the troops' distrust and skepticism of their equipment. They felt that the DoD was rushing to failure, forcing soldiers into deadly scenarios without the protection they desperately needed, instead of waiting for supply lines to properly fit their vehicles. These kind of complaints were common at the time, but unfortunately Army production simply couldn't keep up with logistical load to properly fit all the vehicles being sent into combat. Even 2 years later in 2006, a total of 67 troops were killed by IEDs in 4 months alone. To combat the effectiveness of the IEDs, the US military responded with rapid armoring initiatives that sought to add vital protection to the Humvees. This included additional plating on the front and sides, ballistic glass capable of stopping AK rounds, and heavily protected machine gun turrets providing 360-degree protection of anyone manning the gun. All these upgrades, however, did not come without a cost. The Humvee that was once noted for being nimble and easy to maneuver was now heavy and slow and much harder to move. The additional turret armor was especially bad, as it threw off the center of gravity of the vehicle, making it more prone to rollovers. And rollovers could prove fatal to whoever was up in the turret at the time. Not only in practicality costs, but an up-armored Humvee costs almost 3 times a standard Humvee did. These problems combined would eventually lead to the high use of MRAPs during the conflict. While the up-armored Humvee was not the perfect solution, at the time it was an important step in protecting service members and saved a countless number of lives. Armor, however, was not the only upgrade that the Humvee would see. CROW's system began being utilized by the US military as early as 2005. Short for Common Remote Weapon System, it was a remote-controlled turret system operated by a troop that was inside the vehicle. It included thermal sights, laser range finders, and fully integrated ballistic correction. Probably one of the most popular aspects of the CROW system is that to use it, you got to sit down. It took the turret gunners out of the hatch and safely put them back inside the vehicle, where they would have even better situational awareness than before. Troops loved the ability to scan a full 360 degrees with enhanced visuals and thermal sights. While MRAP fielding did replace the fleets of some vehicles, the vast majority of the wheeled fleet from the beginning of the conflict and even up to today is comprised of the Humvee. Of course, you can never talk about the Humvee without mentioning the incredibly high amount of mission sets and capabilities that would blow the minds of the people who even first invented it. As a platform, it has shown fantastic flexibility in its capabilities.
Oh, the word you're looking for is modularity. I should know. I'm the head of the modularity department here at the Army. They keep me locked away at Fort Benning. I actually lobbied for both M's in the Humvee to stand for modularity. I never met a mod or an attachment that I didn't like.
Yes, the Humvee is certainly modular. It has proven itself to be quite the Swiss Army knife of military vehicles. I've prepared a short list of just a few of the jobs that the Humvee's taken on, just to try to keep up. Fire truck, mine detection, weather detector, radar scanning, tow missile launcher, missile launch site hunter, satellite array carrier, ambulance, mechanic contact truck, ones with giant lasers on top, I don't even know what to call that, troop transport, remote intel gathering, giant smoke screen emitter, every kind of machine gun you can possibly imagine, to include an M242 25mm Bushmaster chain gun, RWS platform, actual howitzer, and of course, snowmobile.
It's beautiful. It's almost too modular. I think I need to sit down for a minute, but make sure you get one of our modularity merch t-shirts.
Yeah, it's pretty modular. So the Humvee's being phased out by our brand new JLTVs. Is this the end of the Humvee though? Will our favorite Army truck be no more? The short answer is, of course, no. And the long answer is no, it is not. While the JLTV is quickly being integrated into Army units, the Humvee still has a lot of life left in it. In an interview, Bruce Jett, the Army Acquisitions Chief, stated, "The JLTV is a significant improvement over the Humvee when it comes to transportability, speed, and agility, as well as protection. However, I have an objective of 50,000 Humvees still in place as an alternate light, less expensive vehicles to perform mission requirements in the future. The Humvee is by far a simpler machine that is easier for your average Joe to use, while at a lower cost to the military. The JLTV requires higher levels of training to operate, is much more complicated in its design and use, and is still in the stage where it's so new, no one knows how to fix it yet, not even the civilian contractors in my motor pool apparently. The Humvee is a simple design that any Joe Schmo with half a driver's license can use with relative ease. While the Humvee might not fit the role that the JLTV was designed for, it still has vast use in support elements, or really any kind of unit with a less intensive mission set, such as sustainment operations or any kind of garrison environment scenario, which, if we're being honest with ourselves, is where most of us will be for a hot minute. What are your guys' experience with the Humvees? Are you sad it's going away? Are you happy that it's being replaced? Let us know in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.